Hi everyone, this is the Shop Stool Podcast, episode 7, season 3. As always, I'm going to start by introducing my two co-hosts. Joey, how's it going?
Yes, very good. Robin, how are you?
Not too bad. And Brian, how are you?
I'm all right. Tough week for an Irishman seeing the English do well at football, but apart from that,
You're okay.
Yeah, not too bad.
Are you still... Melbourne's not on lockdown, is it?
Nah, we're good. We're the free state now.
It's New South Wales that's getting hit hard. You kind of lose track of it when you are, for me up here in Townsville, I'm completely out of it. But now with us going into lockdown yesterday for the first time in this whole event, it's become very much, we're all looking at the news and we're all paying attention to it. But yeah, that's cool. It's nice to hear that you are not the one in lockdown for a change.
It does make a big change. But my parents are now stuck here.
Oh yeah,
so
right.
They ended up. So they were in Brisbane, and then they were due to fly out the next morning back to New Zealand, and then the New Zealand borders closed.
Yeah.
So they flew to Victoria and escaped the lockdown in Brisbane. But now, but it's good they're here.
So what are they? Are they going to stay up there with you?
They're just staying with my sister at the minute, and just trying to keep them busy and occupied, and trying not to stress too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't checked in on a while. We're actually going to check in on two things. We didn't talk about the first one, but I just want to find out your knee. How's that going?
Today's not a good day.
Yeah.
The cold is definitely affecting it. So like in the mornings, we've had some real bad frosts by Melbourne standards. So like -1, -2.
Jeez.
And my workshop will stay cold until midday. So yeah, the mornings are hard. Then it loosens up in the afternoon. Then by the evening, it's really tight again. So yeah, I've just got to keep on the rehab and keep swimming and start cycling a bit more. But yeah, I mean, it's all on the mend, but it's definitely not 100%.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, feel it. Like I'm doing a bit of welding and some heavy steel members at the minute, and just lifting, bending, lifting, kneeling, bending. Yeah, you definitely feel it.
It's funny you talk about welding. Since our last episode, where it actually wasn't the last episode, it would have been the episode before, where we put out a call to anyone who knows someone who would be interested in being interviewed on the show. I don't know if you guys remember that, because that'd be a month ago. Yeah,
about a month ago. Yeah.
I've had a number of people contact me. I actually got a whole bunch of messages today, and I was getting these messages going, why are people suddenly interested in coming on the show and talking to me? Completely forgetting about that episode that we did. So I've had it was strange.
That's cool.
A whole stack of people came on today. So anyway.
Metal workers.
So the one of the guys said, would you be interested in interviewing someone who does metal furniture? And I'd never really thought of it. Furniture is furniture, but we've always had woodworkers on the show. They've all been woodworkers.
Yeah.
I don't think we've had one metal fabricator. We did.
I think probably like Butter are probably the only guys that I can think of.
Who was that guy? Oh God, I can't forget his name. I forgot his name. The guy who made that wing tape, that wing disc.
Oh, Neil.
Neil.
Just comment.
Yeah. Neil loves a bit of aircraft aluminium and titanium and all that nonsense.
And we've also had, who was Cutthroat Knives? What was his name?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but yeah, was it Aiden? That's right.
Yeah.
So that's something away from it. But other than that, yeah, it's all been woodwork. So maybe we should try and find someone who,
you can educate us on some metal.
Yeah. So a while ago we talked about, well, Brian, you said you were going to be testing that Interbuild $2 oil from Bunnings.
Yeah.
What's the verdict?
It's fully cured.
So it got there in the end.
That's the verdict. Yeah. Well, it was pretty dry after 2 days.
Yeah.
I think it was when I reported back on it. I just don't know the long-term effects of it, like in terms of resistance to stains and moisture. But not only that, it's how long the product will be stocked for. But like if I want to do a touch-up defect or something like a year down the line, are Bunnings still going to stock it?
But you wouldn't need to use that particular product. Can't you just use anything
Well, no, if you're doing a spot repair, there may be, even in the non-tinted one, it'll be made up of different waxes. And
it would be an interesting test to do maybe a larger surface and then let it cure and then give it a rub back and put Osmo on top of it.
Yeah.
And see if it even adhere or what would happen if you mixed it up.
Yeah.
Be interesting.
But no, I just dropped $240 on some Osmo the other day, so that's where my allegiances lie.
It's expensive stuff, isn't it?
It is expensive. I'm now getting really anally retentive about decanting it into bags and things so that I'm not losing it. I just find that the wax built up around the seal on the top will leave a skin on the wax, and every time you're pulling that out of there, it's costing you like $5 or $10 in lost material.
Did you buy like a 4-litre bucket?
I think it's a 2.5 litre tin is sort of standard size of it. But yeah, every skin is like, it's a couple of millimeters thick, so it's...
Yeah. I've seen guys decant it into bags and never really thought about doing it seriously. I do get the problem with it, that skinning off after a little while. But I tend to, after buying one big bucket of it for a job and getting kind of 3/4 of the way through, and I finished the job, and then so I lost about 1/4 of a can because it just went, I left it for too long.
Yeah.
But so now I just buy the little 750ml cans. It's like one can per job kind of, and I tend to use most of that up. But there is still wastage, so I really should think about putting it into
so
bags.
I just bought, you can buy like dedicated finishing bags, and they're about, I don't know, $4 each or something. I can't remember the company that sell them, but I just bought a whole load of like food bags off the internet with exactly the same nozzle, and decanted them using a funnel, and like I used the brass rod to try to get to keep an airway open so that they fill the bags. And then when I was doing this one, I'm like, I'm still wasting too much. Like, I'm spilling it everywhere. So I got a big, like a 1 liter, like squeezy bottle, like a tomato ketchup squeezy bottle. Mm-hmm. Fill that up, squeeze it into the bag. It's amazing. It sucks all the air out of the bags, just with a fine like tip on it. It's brilliant. So yeah, for like $1.50 from Big W. So it goes can into that and then into the bags, and then I will date the bags, write the type of like whether it's matte or satin, and then try to put it somewhere where the sun's not going to do any damage to it.
And the bags, do they store properly? Because sun's a good point, but also just a general, I mean, a tin is a pretty airtight seal.
Well, you see, that's what I think with the wax buildup that you get on the tin, unless you're super careful to clean it every time, I don't think you're ever getting an airtight fit once you've opened it, I don't know, half a dozen times or something.
It's just the air left in the can that skins it over.
Yeah, maybe, actually, maybe.
I think that's all it is.
So there's less, like if you imagine the way it's sitting in a skinny bag, there's less air contact.
Yeah.
It's just a thin strip, and you can sort of suck the air out of it a little bit, like if you squeeze the air.
You can pretty much get it vacuumed out, can't you?
Yeah. But
that's interesting.
I've had some in it in a bag for about 7 or 8 months, and still good to use. And it's really handy. Like even if you just want a small bit, like you just squeeze a little bit out into a tray, as opposed to trying to pour a little bit out of a can, and So,
it gets in that ring, and you always lose that. Yeah, fair enough. The one thing I would imagine as well is if there were any gaps where the air could come in, that's going to get plugged with the wax. And I know this from the water-based polyurethane. That stuff cakes. I've destroyed tins. I'll admit sometimes in a bit of a rage because I can't open the damn thing, but you can't get the tin open because it's filled with the polyurethane and you can't get the lid off. So that's as airtight as it's ever going to be. Talking about water-based polyurethane, why are you laughing?
I know, I've just never had that problem with a can. I don't, like, I pour it into a tray and then pour the remains back into the can and then just use a brush to clean out the top edge of whatever's left, and it just pops off every time.
I don't know. Maybe this is a very bad advert for Cabot's then. But those rims turn into tin foil in a matter of 2 uses.
I've never used their can. I only buy their big plastic buckets, so it's much easier.
You put that special paint opener. I'm not using a screwdriver. It's a special paint opener, and the thing just folds up, and then you just end up with all the sides folded in, and then it either goes flying across the workshop or stabbed with a screwdriver to get it open.
I wonder how water-based poly would go in a bag.
I imagine it would be the same.
I've never found an issue with it though. I've never had it. I mean, I've had even the Cabot stuff, 10-litre bucket, half full for 6 months. Open it up and just use it straight out. It's just perfect.
Yeah.
Not a problem.
Talking about stuff going old, have you guys ever experienced old paint? Like
trying to get it off something, or
no?
When it all separates out.
Or you mean lead paint?
No. Just your normal water-based acrylic paint that you put on your walls. I bought a good brand, a deluxe weather, whatever it is, I can't remember, wash and wear. And I went and opened it probably about a week ago, and I pulled it open. I was like, "Shit! Someone farted in the workshop."
Right? Yeah, it went rank.
It went rank.
Yeah.
It apparently it like breaks down sulfur, and then if you think about back to science class where you have that that sulfur experiment. It was the most horrific thing I've ever smelled. I was gagging. Yeah,
it's
trying to get this thing outside.
That's interesting. I've never had the paint do that, but if we have a can where we just keep the brushes, typically a can with water, and it just turns white. Eventually it turns into white paint. And so, but if you disturb that water after, let's say you refresh the water in the can, clean it out, give it a week, and that water smells like death. Yeah. And I just figured it was the water going kind of rancid, but it must be the paint is actually what's doing it then.
Apparently it's a common thing. It generally happens with cheaper paints. There's a chemical in the paint that breaks down, and it breaks down in such a way that you end up with this sulfurous smell. And before reading up on it, I thought, it probably stinks a little. I'm going to roll it onto the MDF board that I need. And then the smell never went away.
Really? So the paint stayed stinky?
It stayed stinky. Half a 10-litre tin, so 5 litres of paint. Just broke down, and I eventually I stuck it around the back of the house, got some dirt, filled it up with dirt to try and cover the smell. And in 2 years, I'll go back and see what's happened to it.
Like Chernobyl, encased the whole thing in concrete.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've never experienced that.
Speaking of, you bring up an interesting point that has annoyed me, and I just found out an answer to it. So I've always been annoyed that there's nowhere here that you can get rid of old paint. It's like nuclear waste. It's like once you have paint, unless you paint it on something, and let's say you've got a can of paint that's 3 years old and whatever, some project, you don't need it anymore. What do? You can't throw it in the tip. In fact, if you go and try and put that half a can of paint in the bin, and the collection guys see it, they'll leave it on the curb.
All right.
Which is fair enough, I guess, because they don't want whatever paint. They don't know what it is. But so I found out the resin paint. Every can they sell has a built-in disposal fee. And if you just take whatever you have back to a resin shop, they'll just take it from you free of charge and dispose of it, as long as it's in its original can.
Huh.
And because I've got about 20 cans, I've got about 20-something cans sitting out the back of my workshop, which is just old jobs, bits and pieces of, just scraps of paint left over. And at some point, I'm going to take it to resin, and they can have 20 cans worth of my old paint.
So it's a bit dearer, but I guess that's a worthwhile service.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
The the dumps will take it.
Really?
Yeah. There's a special section for it, but
okay.
You don't have to empty it out.
Don't think so. No.
Okay.
They will only take empty, dry paint cans here.
I've always assumed that was the case because they say on the tin, I think it's on the tin, don't throw away unless you know, take the paint, pour it out on some newspaper or cardboard or whatever, and let it dry, and then throw that in the bin. But maybe it's
anyway.
not something that I do too often. While you're looking it up, Brian, talking about paints, I am putting some water-based polyurethane over an oil-based varnish. That should work, right?
If it's all dry, I don't see why not.
You can mix the oil and the water between coats. Well, yeah, I mean, within reason.
What, did you, is it an old dry finish, or have you done a coat of oil and then...
Coat of oil, 24 hours later, water-based.
You could have some problems. I mean, it depends how much of the solvent has actually escaped. The oil-based stuff can off-gas for a while, and it could bubble up underneath your water-based surface. It could push the water-based surface off, I think, if it's still off-gassing. I would have thought after 24 hours, most of the gas has probably come off it. But there's probably still residue. Yeah. I mean, it's like oil and water, essentially, what you're mixing. Like, literally, like, tip some olive oil in a cup of water, it's going to float on top. They just don't want to mix. And I think that's what happens with if it's not dry enough. I think you could have a problem, but otherwise, I don't see an issue.
If I'm swearing on my Instagram story tomorrow, then it's going to be why. It's making a high chair for my daughter.
Yeah.
And it's one of those, this is the time to try something like that. So like if it stuffs up, whatever, I'll just...
Was it your first coat? Was the oil your first coat?
Yeah, so it was the first coat onto pine because I wanted to get it to that yellowish color to match the other high chair, which is storyboard. And then you put 1,000 coats of water-based polyurethane on top of that to protect it. Presumably
you sanded it, so essentially probably what you've done is sanded most of the residue off the surface, and whatever has sucked into the pine to kind of prime the pine and give you a smooth surface, you're probably fine.
It was just interesting because I've always heard that you shouldn't mix the two, but it was that moment of, well, why? You can paint water-based polyurethane on anything and it's going to stick. So what's the difference between anything and that oil-based finish? But I guess, as you say, if it's not fully dried, then you're going to have drama.
Yeah, I think there's times, like even with oil-based polyurethane, you see it sometimes in old, like in an old bar or something, where they've put 1,000 coats of poly on, and then at some point it just decides to start peeling off as one big thick layer. I think that's probably the issue. At some point, those two different kind of chemical makeups decide they don't want to start sticking on a corner. Typically, is that you might start getting a lifting or something. But I think that would only occur if you had like 5 coats of oil, and then you come and put another 5 coats of water-based on top of that, and you're going to have like this definite kind of layer issue. But one or 2 coats of oil as a primer, you sand it off, and then you're onto a water-based. I think should be fine.
Yeah.
Speaking of flaking chemically stuff, remember a couple of shows ago I was asking about getting glue off Bessie clamps?
Yeah.
The rigid Bessie clamps. So I had a few people contact me, and I'm going to give it a try tomorrow with oven cleaner.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, apparently take it outside because it's stinky.
Yeah, it's bloody good on blades.
And, spray with oven cleaner.
Yeah, that's an interesting idea. That should melt it. Because it's pretty instant, that stuff. When I clean saw blades, it's like 5 seconds, and then you just wipe it off.
I don't know. I might need a wee bit of scrubbing because some of that Type Bond has been on there for years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So thanks to Marinos from Merino Made. We actually need to get him on the show. He does some really cool stuff.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's have a look.
Where's he from? Melbourne.
Of course. Where are all our guests from?
The only woodworking town in the Southern Hemisphere.
That's because we spent most of our time in lockdown, so we're easy to get hold of.
I'm going down to Tassie probably in November. Hopefully, who knows? Hopefully, I'm going to Tassie, and I'm really hoping I'm going to see if I can catch up with Bern, Laura. I mean, I know we only met over the podcast, but I'm hoping to be able to, just go. Are
you stopping in Melbourne? Eh?
No.
Oh, you won't see Bern then. Bern's Melbourne.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought.
Yeah.
Why did I think
you'll meet Laura?
Bruny Island. That's why. Who was the woodworker who you went to meet in Bruny Island and did all that?
He was a really old dude.
That's
I can't remember his name. And Laura came along too.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting it mixed up. Yeah,
I can't remember his name. He did some. Oh shit, that's really bad. Yeah, he's like a proper next level guru.
Yeah,
Australian historical woodworker.
Anyway, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So, what are you guys been working on? I've been smashing up concrete for some garden renovation. So we won't talk about what I've been doing. Have you guys been woodworking?
Yes. A little bit.
All right, thanks for the show, guys. We'll see you.
That's it. We have been working with. Oh man, I've been doing so much paperwork. It's been ridiculous. But I have managed to do a little bit of woodwork. Smashed out a couple of bedside tables and a headboard, stained in black. Put black Osmo on top of that. Looks pretty good. Still not 100% coverage for black, but the best black I've had yet.
On how many coats?
We ended up like 2 coats of stain, and then 2 coats of the black Osmo.
Okay.
And maybe 3 coats of black Osmo even. Just because the ash was sucking it in all sorts of different rates. So we were having not patchy issues, but just the odd panel just wasn't quite as deep black as the next panel. So,
when you say ash, do you mean like white ash, or you mean
American white ash? Yeah,
American white ash. Right.
Yeah.
It was quite a look. I mean, because that's a black and a big piece. You know, that in the room, that's going to suck up all the light. What was I assume the client wanted that, but was there any reason?
To be honest, I've no clue. It's the furniture's off being shipped. So I'm in Auckland area, north of Auckland. This stuff's going down south of Christchurch. So that's a long way away. I have no idea. I think they've just bought the house and are about to move in. And I think they're kind of decorating the house before they've actually moved in, if that makes sense, like kind of buying all the pieces. So I don't know actually what it's going to look like. But they have just asked me to quote on another bed head in a completely different style and colour. So I'm not sure what's going on, but I'll quote it.
When I saw that, my first thought was, that's what you've gone for that email that you sent Brian and I about the quote. I thought, wow, that's gone a completely different direction.
No, yeah, that's our different kettle of fish. We could talk about that maybe a little bit.
Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. So Joey got a quote for a particular bed.
A request.
So, sorry, not a quote. Got a request for a bed. Quoted on what he thought it should be, and then the client came back and said, well, that's a million miles off the mark. Essentially, that's what happened, right?
You did a concept design for them?
Yeah, so the client provided me with like a, what would you call it? Inspiration picture. This is what I like the look of. She said, so she wanted a bed, a desk/bookcase that would go next to the bed, and a bedside table that would go on the other side of the bed. It all had to match and look like one set. Had to be very slim and sleek and kind of feminine, I guess. She didn't want it to be heavy. And so I took this design that she'd given me, which was at one end slim and at the other end very heavy.
Super chunky.
And it's hard to describe to everyone listening, but I just wanted to say, because I sent this design to both Robin and Brian just to see what they thought of it after the client told me that what the hell was I thinking, because it didn't look anything like what she wanted. And both of you told me I should have changed the angle or the connection between the bed rail and the bed head, and I drew it up that way the first time round, and there was so much timber in there that it looked like just a giant slab stuck to the side of the bed. And I was like, well, that's not what she wants. That's too much timber. She wanted it light and to feel very unencumbered. So I got rid of all that.
It's weird though, the language choice, like to use the word light when the image that she sent you was not a light bed.
No.
Like, it's huge. Like the depth of those that frame must have been like 200 mil or something.
Well, I drew it as best I could to try and match the photo, just to see how big it was. And essentially we're making a triangle of timber where you have the bed rail joining the leg, joining the headboard. And that was about 350 mil across that triangle. It was this huge bit of like just solid timber.
Yeah.
So anyway, so the funny thing was so she came back to me and said, can you just copy what's on the picture? And I said, no, I'm not just going to copy it. Like, I've given you my concept of, based on that, this is how I would go about it to make it interesting for me, at least.
Sorry, why wouldn't you just copy it? Is that from an IP perspective, or?
In a sense, but I also didn't really like it, and I thought, let's just try something different. I mean,
Interesting.
I just felt like copying it would just be a bit like, I wouldn't be all that inspired to do the work. And there is probably a level of intellectual property involved. I had no idea who the original designer was. I don't even know how I would find out who they were.
See, while we're on the IP topic, somebody contacted me. I obviously sound like the IP Nazi on the show. Somebody contacted me with a brilliant Instagram account called Design Within Copy. It is calling out the most blatant knockoffs you've ever seen.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know, it's like sort of TV celebrity interior designers knocking off.
Right.
Like not one, like it's not just one piece of one designer. They'll go through the entire designer's back catalogue and knock off 5 or 6 pieces. So it's definitely, it's really good. It's worth a look. And it's kind of done in a humorous way. But it's good. So Design Within Copy, if anybody wants to give them a follow.
Okay.
I'll have a look at that.
Yeah.
So where were we? She said, can you copy it? I said, no, I don't want to copy it. And I said, if you want a straight copy, maybe just find another furniture maker. And so she came back and said, oh, have you got where can I find some of your other bed designs? Maybe we can just tweak those. And I was like, I've just given you a bed design. Why don't you just tweak that one? Like, it's really close to the picture you gave me.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you want to change. So I just stopped emailing that person back because it had become clear that it was going to be in very much the too hard basket. There was already a language issue. So I think partly that was the problem, that she struggled to have the language to describe, I think, exactly what she wanted, and it became just a difficult process. So too hard basket.
Abandoned ship.
Yeah.
Do you feel like your first drawing, which can I just say, you put together some amazing drawings for a first, like a rough draft before you've even talked money. I would be proud of those drawings if those were my final drawings on something.
I quoted off those drawings. I gave her a price based off those drawings, and typically that's how I do. I say, someone comes to me and says, this is what they want. Here's a drawing. Here's how much that drawing costs. If you want to keep talking, let's keep talking. Otherwise, see you later, because I don't have time to, just keep going backwards and forwards. Like, this is how much money you're in for if you want this.
But then do you work from that drawing and tweak that drawing?
Yeah,
or
and then if someone says, if someone says, look, I love it, but it's too tall, it's too short, change the legs, maybe paint it, whatever, let's just change how it looks. I'll make a few changes free. And then at that point, if someone says, okay, I still want to do the project, but let's look at it from like a completely different angle.
Yeah.
And then I say, right, now it's like whatever, some random number I make up an hour to change the drawings.
Okay, so you give them the first one. If they get it back like this client did, and they go, nope, this is not at all what I wanted, please try again.
Yeah.
Then it becomes, they start paying for that.
Like in this case, if she says, please try again, I would come back and say, you need to be very specific at this point. One, can we salvage the design I've given you? Like, is it 90% there? Or if it's only 20% there, like, okay, we're starting again. I obviously got the wrong end of the stick. But if it gets to the point where they're saying they've made 2 or 3 tweaks and then say, okay, that's great, let's go ahead with it. Oh, by the way, actually now can we make it out of concrete? I'm like, all right, let's start from scratch.
I wonder how many quotes you may lose based on that initial impression. So you've come up with a design. They've said, come up with a design. You've come up with something that you think is good. They've looked at it and go, no, this isn't what I want. I don't think this is going to work. Based on the open design parameters that they've given you. I wonder how many times people have walked away because of that. You've never known.
Yeah, I mean,
they've judged your work based on a
concept.
On a concept that they didn't give you, almost unfairly.
Yeah, to be fair, this actually, doing those drawings took longer than typically I would spend because I was given such an open brief. It was just this one picture of a bed and then make a bed like this but different, and also a desk like that but different, and a bedside table. So I had to come up with like what's going to be my running theme, how am I going to link it, and then how am I going to incorporate those kind of themes, which ended up being a very gentle curve between the 3 things. And it actually I probably spent 2.5 hours, 3 hours drawing those. And then it got to the point where I was like, I am not going to get this job. I was like, I'm not going to get this job, but I'm going to finish these damn drawings because I actually quite like them, and at least I'll have them somewhere tucked away, and I can pull them out again for someone else as a starting point. Yeah, I kind of knew halfway through that I'm spending way too much time on this.
Bryan, have you been working on anything?
I'm putting the finishing touches to a big set of built-ins in the workshop at the minute. So like a shelving, a media unit, and a pantry that sort of all go together, kind of like a Tetris-y sort of thing. So the first half of the install of that is on Monday, and then that frees up my workshop to actually work on other things. So I've been doing a few concept designs for wall-mounted units. I think I mentioned them on the show the other week with the tambour doors.
Yeah, with old Simeon.
I posted a little sort of teaser sketch on my Instagram last week, I think. A little black and white sketch.
Yes, that's right. That was cool.
And I've made a few tweaks to it, and the client gave me the go-ahead on that today. So that's going to be fun. Looking forward to doing the tambour and trying to work out how the hell I assemble it. Because usually with tambour, you have like a track that sort of, you can just slide the door through. Whereas because this is wall mounted,
you can't get at the back.
Yeah, how I arrange the cleats and the power sockets as well. So there's obviously, they're not going to be able to open the full width because I've got to allow a gap in the back for a socket in the middle. So they're going to sort of maybe be, I don't know,
can they
90 mil or...
I've never done tambour, but my thinking straight away would be that it comes around the back and then curls inside again. It curls back on itself, so you get more open without it actually having to go where those pipes and stuff are. So it actually comes to a point and then just curls in on itself inside, so you lose internal space, but you get full openness.
Yeah.
Depends. I don't know what radius you can get out of that stuff.
Yeah, that'd be
a pretty big radius, but I think that might work. It's as well whether you want to see the tambour on the inside, because usually they've got the canvas on the back.
Hidden. Yeah.
So you put a panel inside, but I don't know, it might work. But I
if
don't
is
think
it a
it's...
vanity?
No, it's not a van. It's a media
Okay.
unit.
Okay.
So like bookshelves and
Do you think it really matters? I wouldn't matter if you see the inside of the timber door. Like if you're gonna put your, like the way I think of it is, you're gonna put, the whole reason for doors is to hide your messy shit on the inside.
Well, the way I was sort of selling it to her was that you could have all these different, because it's sort of broken down into different sections, so you could have books or something on display on one side and kind of open the tambour and leave the tambour pulled over on the other side.
Okay.
But the other thing I was thinking was having like an access slot through the back wall that the panels slide in through, and then the cleat fixes over the top of that.
Yeah.
Once you get it on site, the cleat gets fixed in place.
Could you not do something similar from the front and have a cleat that was screwed on from inside at the front? I know you don't want to do it.
I don't want to see it on the front edge. Is the big thing. No. It's going to be fun. And using a timber that I haven't really used much before, Tassie Blackwood.
Ooh,
which is going to be nice.
Expensive.
Expensive? No, it's pretty much a bit. When you kind of get into what I would call a premium Aussie timber, like Spotted Gum, Blackbutt, Tassie Blackwood, they're all very similarly priced. So I think for 140 mil by 32 mil, you're looking at about $33 a meter.
That sounds about right.
And Spotted Gum would probably be 35 or something like that. So they're sort of all in and around the same. Like by the time you work it out across a piece, the difference is, I don't know, $100 or something. But the premium ones are the sort of the Damien Wright timbers, the petrified red gum and stuff.
I think from memory, it's been a while since I've priced up Blackwood, but I think it would be sitting somewhere not quite double that here.
You serious?
I think it's very expensive. It's pretty close to what you'd be paying for American walnut.
Ebers. Yep. It's a timber that I've kind of always been a little reluctant to use because I don't like some of the color tones in it. Like you get some nearly greeny kind of patterns in it that I've never really. But then I saw a lovely batch I went into Urban Salvage last week and they had some beautiful stuff. It was almost like walnut.
Oh yeah.
Really nice crown cut. And the advantage of a Spotted Gum is obviously it's a bit easier to glue, a bit less creep on the joints, and it's lighter because these are going to be reasonably hefty units, so it's a bit less strain on the cleats and on the wall.
Cool.
So
so most of your units is mostly going to be solid timber. Are you going to put like a 18 mil plywood panel on the back to hang it from and keep everything?
I usually rebate like a French cleat into the back, so just route out a channel. It depends how, because of the expansion and contraction of the timber, I may end up doing some of the panels inside out of veneered, just shop veneered ply. To try to keep it stable. But
smart idea. Whenever you got moving parts, it's
well, I was thinking, the tambour, because I want it to be pretty tight in the track. Don't want it to bind. Still trying to get my head around exactly which bits I'm going to do in ply, or because so they're 2 units for 2 different rooms, and they want similar language between the 2, but they're different size, and one's kind of got an end panel that wraps up, so you've got sort of 2 dimensions, like a perpendicular bit of grain hitting it, and how I'm going to manage that. But I've seen some like low profile aluminium hangers, like a big Z strip. But usually I would just do either 12 or 16 mil or 18 mil ply and just put the 45 degree, hang it on it, and then I'll try to screw fix from the inside of the panel as well, through the back of the panel of the unit into the cleat that's on the wall that's stud mounted. Yeah,
Cool.
that's the way I would usually do it. But
Did you say
it's
who's going to do the install? Is that you?
me. Yeah.
Right, okay.
I've done a fair few of them now. So the hardest one was probably the Tetramino one that's on my website. It was kind of 3 different wall hung units, and the tricky bit was that it had LED built into the top one. I don't remember if you I did this.
I don't remember it, but yeah.
Crazy track that had to. Yeah, it was basically so you could remove all the LED and replace it if you wanted. But
God.
Jesus Christ, I did that install by myself. I think the base part of it was 2.2 meters or something like that, solid spotted gum. Trying to use milk crates to prop it up to get it onto the cleat, and then chase the LED wiring through it.
That's the worst thing, trying to put something on the wall like that and have wires run between 2 different kind of carcass units, and it's really difficult.
It's an absolute nightmare. So no lighting in this one, fortunately, but just a tricky tambour door to deal with.
Yep.
But it's gonna be fun. So Tassie Blackwood, and I think we're gonna go with a rock maple, Queensland rock maple plywood for the doors, just to get a nice big contrast into it.
Cool.
Are you going to take a feather out of Simeon's hat and make your own?
I am not going to make my own. Absolutely not. And there is no way I'm going to veneer over the top and do some marquetry and cut every single strip of the tambour with a knife. He's a madman.
I didn't understand half of what he said. All I took from that is that you should finish the strips or whatever it is first before you put it together. That's all I got from it.
Yeah,
the biggest thing, the thing that I was asking him was, the pattern, the big kind of V-shaped pattern that he had on it in the contrasting timber. If you had cut that on a table saw or a bandsaw, you're losing the kerf thickness. Yeah. So the pattern won't line up unless the gaps are the same width as the kerf.
Yeah.
So you obviously don't want to have like a 3 mil or 1.3 mil gap between them. So that's what I couldn't understand, how he had made it. And I'm like, Jesus, man. Wow,
yes,
you're a perfectionist. True. So that's what I'm working on.
Cool.
The other small bits and pieces, more memory boxes. Did a golf trophy. What else?
I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah. Other things. Posted about my tree maker thing today. So that was pretty nice to go back and tally up. And so I worked out that in 18 months I'd planted over 1,200 trees with 1% of my income to my business. So that's good. And there's obviously bigger businesses involved, like the Like Butters of this world, who really do their part for saving the world. So it's really cool. So if anybody's interested, it's basically just a pledge. Like, you don't have to, not asking for your firstborn child or anything, but if you visit sawdustbureau.com/treemaker, there's just information on there of different tree planting and biodiversity schemes that you can join. And it
reminded me to have a look at mine, because I must be about due to pay some monies and plant some trees over here.
Yeah. Yep.
Cool.
So that has been my week.
Nice one.
We bought a section, bought a house.
Oh, awesome.
How do you just drop that in after 50 minutes?
Well,
I was literally just about to say, and with that, we're going to round up to none. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, we can save it.
No.
Where'd you
we signed some paperwork today, which was accepted.
Give us
we've got a month to sell our house, and then we can pay for that one, and then we bought 1 1/3 acres with a house and a small shed on it. So we need to.
The house is already on it.
Yeah.
Are you going to demo, or are you going to?
Yeah, it's going to be. The house is going to be heavily modified.
Yeah.
Because it's a little 1930s bungalow that needs a whole lot of love, and my first house was a 1930s bungalow, and it was a shit to live in because it's just like living in a tent. So that's going to get stripped out, and we're stretching our budget quite to the edge, but we think we can do what we need to do. So,
and you're still going the container route.
Container?
Big shed.
Oh, sorry, shed, not container.
Yeah.
You're still going the shed route.
Yeah, I just got a quote through today for a new shed, which is much cheaper than I thought it was going to be for the actual shed, so that's nice. They can't give me a price yet for the groundworks because we can't get on site yet and actually dig a hole and see what we've got.
Is it pretty flat?
There's two spots where we can put a shed. One shed would be very flat and easy to build, but far away from the existing shed that's there.
Right.
If we want to ideally we would put the new workshop right next to the existing shed, and I can use both.
Yeah.
The existing one has a little kitchenette and it would be an office type
So it's
room.
more than a shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it has some storage, which we would use probably for finished furniture or maybe a little showroom type thing. So if we want to put the actual workshop close to that, it would mean digging a bit more of a slope away and putting a small retaining wall in, which wouldn't be too major, but we need to investigate if we can do that. And it's only 10 minutes away from my current workshop.
Oh, perfect.
Nice.
So should be fun.
Congratulations.
Yeah, it feels good to.
It's a big step.
We've got someone about. We've probably in the next 2 days. Our agent told us someone's going to put an offer on the current workshop. So that's not even really on the market yet. It's just someone the agent knew, and he came and had a look and loved it. So he's just doing the numbers to see what he wants to pay for it, and we'll go
your plan is just to do a long settlement on that so that you can use it until the shed on site is finished.
We are going to, and this potential buyer wants us to lease it for a year, and we want to lease it back for a year. So because my existing workshop has a small minor dwelling behind it, 60 odd square meter dwelling, and we'll squeeze into that for a year while we're going to build and renovate the house.
You're not going to hire a caravan and live the proper miserable Grand Designs life, freezing through the winter with your. No.
Nope. I've got a heat pump in the little house, so I'll be
perfect.
cranking that. So yeah, it'll be fun.
Very nice. I guess then in probably a month when we do another show with just the three of us, there should be a couple more updates then. So that's exciting.
Probably. Yeah.
So if anybody's interested in dropping $1 million plus on a workshop and house in Auckland, just give Joey a shout.
Yeah.
Give me a bell.
Yeah.
$1 million, I'll take $1 million.
You take $1 million?
Yeah.
All right. So to everyone listening, if you did enjoy the show, please go ahead and give it a rating on iTunes. That really does help us out. The Shop Stool Podcast is available on most podcasting apps. Joey and Bryan, thanks again for hanging out, and we'll see you all next show.
See ya.
Cheers, guys.